As I have communicated through the DAC Digest communications earlier, both the federal and the state testing requirements remain. We have submitted 2 assessment-related waiver requests, 1 accountability waiver request, and 1 accountability addendum to the U.S. Department of Education. And we want to thank you for submitting your comments during this public comment period. At this time, we are waiting for responses from the US ED to our submissions. We are here to support our districts this spring, and our staff have worked hard to provide additional testing options. As you might have noticed through our communications earlier, that our test windows have been expanded and optional extended testing hours for forward exam, DLM assessment, Aspire, and access for ELS assessment are all available to provide more flexibility to administer the assessment safely. This year, ACT is also available as an in-person online option, so we can get an additional 15 days to administer the ACT. We have also shortened the forward exam by 70 to 80 minutes per grade level. So when you are bringing in students, you can predict the test times a little more, because with the long write portion, the feedback that we got from the previous years is that sometimes kids take more than the time that's estimated. So this way you can plan and bring students in and out and distribute the testing in a safe and secure manner. And our weekly DAC Digest communications give you the updated and timely information. So thanks so much for your careful review of these weekly DAC Digest and disseminating them to appropriate staff. We appreciate and value our collaboration with you. And thanks so much for your support and work during this critical time. This time I'm going to invite Phil Olson, our Assistant Director here, to share some other information on assessments, and then our program staff will all go in and provide more information. Thanks so much.
Phil, I think you're on mute.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. I mute. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. I thought I had unmuted myself. I'm very sorry.
And I'm sorry, I was thinking it was my phone and I'm trying to figure out. So thanks for bearing with us.
My apologies, everyone. I'm very sorry. I was muted without realizing it. So what I wanted to say, and you may have seen this letter that the Department of Education sent to the chief state school officers on February 22nd that reinforced the importance of the spring assessments this year. The Department of Ed said in that letter that they will not be inviting state requests for blanket waivers of assessments like they did last year. Deputy State Superintendent Mike Thompson will be sending a letter to district administrators in the near future, and we will be providing more information in future DAC digests. As VG mentioned, DPI submitted 2 assessment-related waiver requests to the Department of Ed, seeking flexibility for situations where testing every student will not be possible. Schools and districts are still required to administer the statewide assessments following infection control and mitigation protocols and as permissible by local health departments. We know that parents have expressed a desire to districts, DPI, and other stakeholders and decision makers to keep children home due to health concerns. In order to accommodate these parents' understandable and reasonable concerns surrounding testing, DPI has requested the following waivers. We've requested a federal waiver from requiring an annual ELP assessment of every English learner and from using the Progress in Achieving English Language Proficiency indicator in our ESSA accountability system for the 2020-21 school year. DPI is also seeking to waive the requirement to have an accountability indicator in 2020-21 that measures the achievement of at least 95% of all students. The Department of Education has 90 to 120 days to respond to these requests. State testing requirements still remain, so schools and districts should still be planning to assess their students. Additionally, the waivers we've requested only apply to federal assessment and accountability requirements. The statewide requirements are still active, and any changes to those would have to come from the state legislature. We are committed to providing you the information and resources you need to administer the assessments this year. Some new resources we have include the recently posted COVID-19 assessment FAQs website to answer some common assessment related questions we've been getting. These FAQs address topics such as testing requirements, administration, data, parent opt-out, parent refusal, and accountability. Another FAQ template specifically created for you, district and school staff, can be customized to include district-specific information. To help districts plan and successfully administer assessments this spring, OEA created the Strategies and Considerations for In-Person Assessment in 2020-21 resource, which provides suggestions on scheduling, preparing the building and classrooms, technology preparations, and staff preparation, to name a few. In addition, the notification of upcoming assessment for 2021 template has been updated to include specific language around safe assessment during a pandemic. Please feel free to contact our team with any questions at any point. We look forward to working with you to successfully administer the 2021 spring statewide assessments. Thank you for all of the hard work that you have been doing and that you will continue to do this year. At this point, I'd like to have the rest of the assessment team share the specific assessment related updates.
Good morning. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that in about a month, WIDA will be releasing a new ELP screener for kindergarten. This is going to replace the KWAPT assessment, and we plan to phase that out by the end of the next school year. You're welcome to begin using the screener as soon as it's released, but we won't be really mandating that until we get into enrollment for 2022 to 23. The training is housed in the WIDA Secure portal as the WAPT training is. You can download it from there once it's released, and you may print it in color or black and white. The field testing on it is really positive, and it seems like it's a very nice upgrade to the KWAPT. I also just wanted to remind everyone that there is a lot of e-learning, and WIDA is continuing to add to it within the WIDA Secure portal. This is available for all educators in the state of Wisconsin, and you're free to make accounts for any staff who need them. There are courses that run from 2 to about 10 hours for professional development, and it's really got something for everyone, from classroom teachers to ESL teachers to district and school administrators. You can also find 3 mini courses for supporting ELs during distance learning as well. So if you have staff that would need some professional development around that, please make use of these. We want to get them widely used across the state. And last but not least, I wanted to talk a little bit about the test window. It opened on Monday, and testing is going slowly but smoothly in the state. It's a really long test window, so we're not concerned about the pace at this point, but we are keeping an eye on it. In a few more weeks, as we see how testing is progressing, we'll make a decision about whether or not we need to continue to extend the test window. The implication of that is that all of the dates from April 30th on, if we extend the test window, also get pushed. So these are dates as are current, but as we get more understanding of how testing is going, that may change. It's a long test window, but we would encourage you get testing done as soon as you can. And please, when you have full boxes of materials, send them to DRC. We would be much more comfortable with test materials sitting in a DRC warehouse than in a storage closet when a school is closed for 2 weeks due to a COVID outbreak. So please, when you have full boxes of material, get them back and get them out of your hands.
Good morning. This is Mike PC with updates and reminders for the DLM assessment. The DLM test window is March 22nd through May 14th for ELA, math, science, and social studies. As a reminder, districts should be creating rosters in ELA and math in grades 3 through 11, science in grades 4 and 8 through 11 only, and social studies in grades 4, 8, and 10 only. If you have students rostered in science and social studies in non-tested grades, I will be reaching out to you to get it corrected. So please review the roster extract to verify that students are assigned to the right tests. We have extended the test window this year to allow time for more testing. We are also allowing testing to take place during evenings and weekends. However, please note there will be no DLM help desk or DPI support during evenings and weekends, and we will be monitoring off-hours testing. At this point, districts should be nearing the end of loading and validating data in Educator Portal. This includes adding users, students, and creating rosters. District test coordinators have access to data extracts in the report settings on Educator Portal to help you monitor. Test administrators need to complete required training and accept the security agreement in Educator Portal before test lists will be administered. Test administrators will not have access to test tickets until both of these steps are complete. In regards to the students, in order for test lists to be delivered, students need to be correctly entered into the Educator Portal. Students also need to be rostered to the correct subjects. Finally, students need to have a completed personal needs and preferences profile and first contact survey submitted. Here are the steps to take if a student moves districts during the test window. But to be honest, if a student moves during the test window, it's really just easiest to reach out to me for help. Finally, some additional items for testing. The materials and collection lists are available on the Dynamic Learning Maps website. The links are provided. If you have trouble finding them or accessing them, please reach out to me. Writing samples, again, will be collected as normal and can be loaded securely into the Educator Portal. Please upload the students' writing samples upon completion. If you have any questions regarding writing samples, please contact me. Field testing and teacher surveys will be available. If you are able to complete either of these, or even just one of them, it will be extremely helpful. However, they are optional and you should not feel that you have to. As always, please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. Thank you.
Good morning. This is Allison O'Hara, the Forward Exam Coordinator. I have some important information and reminders to share with you today, but the first is a reminder that I want to make sure everyone knows about the trainings. We need all DACs and SACs, both new and experienced, to view the training videos that we have, and we have a test administrator training video that DACs, SACs, and test administrators need to watch. The videos contain information. We tried to keep them short, but they have information on several of the new changes we have this year. So in an effort to reduce the workload of administering the forward exam this spring, we have made some one-year changes. First, the testing window has been extended by 2 weeks, and similar to the DLM, it starts on March 22nd and ends on May 14th. Then, in order to shorten student testing times, we worked with the test vendor, DRC, to identify ways that we could possibly decrease the length of time it takes to test. And so for this year, the text-dependent analysis item, which is the long right session of ELA, normally it's ELA session 1, that has been removed for this year. We also removed field test items from ELA, mathematics, and science. We did not remove field test items from social studies, because social studies is on track to have a new assessment in 2022, and we need to field test items for that. Finally, we are offering optional extended testing hours for the 2020-2021 exam. In order to use these optional extended testing hours, you need to submit a form to, and it looks like we've got that on this slide. You need to submit a form to OEA, and we'll approve that, and then we'll work with DRC to make sure that they have the test window open for you during those times. It's important to note, though, that the DRC Help Desk is only available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. So districts should have everything set up, their testing devices ready, their technology confirmed that everything is working before the help desk closes and before you start using those additional extended hours. There might be some situations where you will be testing students off network. So you may be testing students, but not in a school building on the school internet. If that is the case, there are some important technology tasks that need to be conducted. And so we have a short 2-page handout from DRC and a short video instructing district and school technology coordinators about what they need to do in order to make sure that you have access to test content. This would be perhaps testing for a virtual school. Sometimes they may use a community center or a library for testing. Test setup opens in the DRC Insight portal on March 8th. Once test setup opens, you can assign accessibility features, print tickets, edit student data, edit test sessions. All of the information for that is in the DRC Insight portal guide. A reminder, don't print test tickets until you absolutely have to. Print them as close to the day of testing as possible, because test tickets are secure and need to be kept secure. This is just a reminder, we have lots of forward resources available to you, and we want to point out that the student preparation materials, the online tools training, and the online item samplers are available publicly using a Chrome browser. So we know students are working at home. Students and families can access these at home through a Chrome browser to practice both becoming familiar with the online test setting and also to see some example questions. Finally, we have our last Q&A webinar coming up before the window opens. That is scheduled for March 10th at 1 p.m. The webinar is open to all district and school technology coordinators and district and school assessment coordinators. It's an opportunity to ask questions that you may have after you've viewed the training videos and to listen to questions that others may have. The test setup window opens just 2 days before this webinar on March 8th. So this may be a good chance for you to get into the DRC Insight portal. And then if you have questions, you can participate in the webinar on Wednesday and get those questions answered.
Good morning, everyone. This is Nikki Bracken, your ACT and ACT Aspire coordinator. Just wanted to share a few things about where we are at ACT-wise and ACT Aspire, and a couple of reminders since we are getting close to testing here. So the first ACT paper test date is scheduled for March 9th. To date, all schools should have received and checked in their test materials. If your school is missing materials or needs additional testing materials, you must place an order no later than the end of the day today. Today is the last day, so make sure you go into PA Next and place an order for standard materials. If you did notice in your packing materials that you're missing any accommodations that may have already been approved, the number's on the screen for you to contact ACT Accommodations to order those materials. So March 9th also begins our testing window for online testing. Schools should have already completed online testing site readiness and lockdown devices. If you are testing online and have not completed site readiness, please complete the site readiness for online testing activities listed on the Wisconsin ACT website. You can find those under the configuration section portion of that website. Remember to create test sessions and prepare test sessions. You'll also want to make sure if you're using Proctor caching that you pre-cache test content before online testing begins. For those of you who are considering the possibility of utilizing makeup testing in an online testing format, we do strongly encourage you to do some online site readiness if you are entertaining that as a possibility. This includes a mock administration. Being well prepared is key to administering a successful ACT assessment, and it helps to eliminate possible test administration. We want to make sure that you review the ACT schedule of events often. This contains all of the tasks and all of the deadlines needed for testing. Make sure your staff is aware of what you have coming due and those deadlines. It's very important. Make sure that all new staff and experienced staff is trained and keep materials secure at all times. There's a lot of changes this year, especially with online testing. So just make sure that your testing staff feels confident and ready to test come test time. Remember to review any social distancing guidelines. ACT has one available for you, but also we have our prepared for site readiness and obviously your local and policies for social distancing. Inclement weather and inclement weather and late start policy should also be reviewed so that you know we do live in Wisconsin, so occasionally we get those snowstorms. And remember to check in with students before testing to make sure they have completed that My ACT account registration. Just a couple of reminders about test materials. They should have all arrived for test window 1. There may be some delays about accommodations, and yes, those are continuing to be approved and will be sent in a separate shipment if needed. But it's important that the testing materials are that you use them that are specific to each individual testing date. The use of incorrect materials will likely result in an invalid test due to misadministration. Remember, district and school staff, including athletic coaches who have relatives testing on test date, should not have access to any secure materials prior to testing. As of January 22nd, student rosters were verified by schools and ACT materials were shipped accordingly to that verified roster. If students enrolled in your school after January 22nd, you will need to follow the instructions outlined in the PA Next user guide to enroll that student and order additional test materials. Be sure that a student who is newly enrolled also creates a My ACT account within 2 days of the date the student tests. If a newly enrolled student needs accommodations for the ACT, first check to see if an accommodation was requested and approved by the transferring school. If so, ACT will transfer the accommodation materials to your school's order once you add that student to PA Next. You can verify that this has been completed by running an accommodation roster within PA Next. If the former school did not complete an accommodation request, complete and submit a late consideration form in TAA by March 5th. And we do have a link to that late consideration form on the screen for you. Remember, if you are doing that, one of the key mistakes is that they forget to actually upload that form with the request. Make sure you do that, otherwise they will deny the request. Let's talk a little bit about makeup testing. That's important. If for some reason your school or an individual student was not able to test on the first test window, it is important for you to know all of your options when determining makeup opportunities. So we do have another administration for standard paper, and that will take place on March 23rd. And what we used to call the makeup or the emergency test, that third test window, is going to be April 13th. Those are specific to paper testing only for March 23rd and April 13th. Paper accommodations window for the second window makeup is March 23rd through the 6th and 29th through the 31st. Or for emergency is April 13th through 16th and 19th through 23rd. Um, Reference the schedule of events for deadlines on when to reorder testing materials for each of those testing dates. So let's talk a little bit about online testing for makeup. Online testing can also be utilized for makeup testing, regardless of the initial mode of testing. So schools can use any remaining online testing dates within all 3 testing windows for makeups. If you choose to use online testing for a missed paper date, you will need to change the test delivery format of the student to online testing. We put a link to the switching from paper to online testing document on the screen for you. So please reference that when making those switches over. Just a reminder that some accommodations are still required on paper. Take note of those students who do have paper accommodations, and you will need to remember to order makeup accommodations for those students if required. Students not testing. If a student is taking the DLM or does not take the ACT for any reason, you want to indicate that reason under the state use question number 1 on the student detail screen and PA Next. I know some of you have reached out to me and are wanting to do this process right away, but unfortunately that doesn't open until March 9th. So on March 9th, you can start entering those codes and you'll have through April 30th to do so. We've provided a Wisconsin administration supplement. The link is on the screen that you can follow for instructions on how to complete that process. And finally, I just wanted to list the testing dates for testing window 1 so that you can see what is available. March 9th, again, is for paper testing only. If you chose paper testing, you have to test on paper on March 9th with the materials that you received. March 9th through 12th, 15th through 19th is test window 1 for paper accommodations, and the 9th through the 11th, 16th through 18th is for online testing window. I gave you some links to some commonly useful resources. Obviously, the Wisconsin ACT website is key to finding everything ACT and ACT Aspire. DPY website is great. Also has some, links to different trainings and webinars that we've conducted. I really encourage you to go to that training page if you haven't been able to view those trainings, and they're all recorded for you. So please feel free to review them at any point in time. As a reminder, we have opened up some Wisconsin ACT office hours every Thursday at 9 a.m. The good thing about these is they are specific to Wisconsin. So log in, you can just drop by. You don't need to register, just click on the link. And we do like usually 10 minutes where you can we have a subject that we talk about, but then it's open Q&A for anyone who has any specific questions regarding testing, my ACT, anything on that nature. So we look forward to seeing you Thursdays at 9 a.m. All right, so let's jump into Aspire. I want to give you a little bit of information on where we're at testing timeline wise. Testing window for 9 and 10 for Aspire has been extended. This window has been extended by 2 weeks. Testing window is now April 5th through May 19th. Student rosters were uploaded by DPI on January 29th, and test coordinators can now begin transferring and enrolling students, entering accommodations, and setting up test sessions. DAC should ensure appropriate testing staff has access to PA Next portal and the Aspire training website. Please refer to the Wisconsin Aspire user role matrix when inviting users. In addition, technical coordinators should begin online testing site readiness. As a reminder, please review the Aspire schedule of events often for a list of all testing activities and deadlines. We've included a link to the Wisconsin Aspire user role matrix on your screen, but that's also listed on the Wisconsin ACT website if you need it. A little bit of confusion that I wanted to go over is for enrolling or transferring students with Aspire. So if you have a 9th or 10th grade student who was enrolled in your school after DPI loaded your roster on January 29th, you will need to add that student to your Aspire roster. How you enroll a student depends on if they are transferring in from a Wisconsin public school or enrolling them from an out-of-state school or a private school, which any location, whether that's Wisconsin or Illinois. For students newly enrolled from a Wisconsin public school, you're going to want to use the student transfer process to enroll that student. You will need the student's WISE ID, first name, last name, date of birth, and know what school the student is transferring from. Then follow the instructions outlined in the student transfer section of the Aspire Test Coordinator Manual to assist in completing that process. And if you have some students who are enrolling from outside of Wisconsin or from a private school within Wisconsin, there are a couple of options on how to enroll this student. You can do this through a student registration import file, or you can create a student record manually. Instructions for both of these enrollment options are also found in the Aspire Test Coordinator manual, so be sure to review that as you're going through those steps. And just a few like overall enrollment reminders. The school enrolling the student is responsible for submitting a student transfer request. So if you're taking on that student, you're the one who needs to initiate that transfer request. Do not submit a request for a student transferring out of your school. The district enrolling that student will take on that responsibility. Another thing to note is you do not need to enroll or delete a student from your roster. Students who are transferred will be removed from your roster automatically, and students not tested will need to be marked not tested accordingly. Now let's talk a little bit about accommodations for Aspire, because those are a little bit different from ACT. So all the accommodations and EL supports for Aspire are entered directly into the Aspire PA Next portal through a student's personal needs profile. They can be entered two ways. At the individual student level, or you can do it through an import or export of the student PNP and test information file. This is useful when entering several student accommodations. I know some folks like to be able to pull that roster down, enter all of their student accommodations and EL needs, and then import that back up. Whichever is your preference. Obviously, I think it'll depend for most schools on how many student accommodations they're entering. Instructions on how to enter PNPs for both manually as well as the import-export process are found in the Aspire Test Coordinator Manual. Let's talk a little bit about tech readiness for Aspire. You want to make sure that your technical coordinator is involved in beginning online site readiness as soon as possible. DAC should make sure that their technical coordinator has access to the ACT Aspire PA Next portal and the training website. They'll need this to make sure that they are ready and that a mock administration has been completed. For information on online site readiness and the mock administration guide, you can find everything under the Wisconsin ACT Aspire website page under the configuration section. And finally, I just wanted to give a few reminders about some training and resources we have available for Aspire. We still have a few Aspire trainings and webinars and chat with experts that are coming up. Registration for those trainings and recordings of past trainings are available on the DPI website at DPI ACT Trainings webpage. Please go there and review them. Feel free to disseminate those out to staff. It's great because when they're recorded, they can review them at any time. All manuals, tutorials, additional resources, schedule of events, all of that is found on the Wisconsin Aspire web pages. So please, that's a really important website. Go there. Any training opportunities, additional tutorials are also found there. Student practice test items are also available on the ACT website listed here. And that's what I have for Aspire. So I'll turn it over to Dwayne.
Good morning, this is Dwayne Dorn, and I'm going to talk about reading readiness. Districts are able again to be reimbursed for reading readiness expenses for the 2020-21 school year. In the next couple of weeks, assessment coordinators will be emailed the reimbursement request form. Coordinators are asked to submit the information about the number of students screened, the name of the screener utilized or screeners utilized at each grade, and the amount sought for reimbursement for each grade. And then I'm asking districts to submit this information to the department by March 26th, but we might push that off till April 2nd, depending upon when actually we get this reimbursement request form emailed out to you. Look forward then to receiving reimbursements at late May, early June. And if you are the district assessment coordinator for your district, be on the lookout for this email sometime in the next 2 weeks. And if you have any additional questions or information, feel free to contact me at your convenience. Thanks a lot.
Good morning. This is Angela Duga, the NAEP State Coordinator. I have a couple quick updates about NAEP 2021. The National Center for Education Statistics, or NCES, in the U.S. Department of Education oversees the administration of NAEP. NCES determined that NAEP 2021 testing for students will be postponed to 2022 due to concerns over the ability to administer the test safely and adequately in schools across the nation. Remember that NAEP field staff bring the testing materials and the tablets into schools, which was not feasible to do during this winter's test window. We do not yet know how the sampling will be conducted for NAEP 2022, but we are expecting that a new sample of schools will probably be drawn, which will likely include many, but not all of the same schools that were selected for NAEP this year. I'll be in touch with districts and schools as soon as I have more information about NAEP next year. Hopefully, likely that'll be in May or June. So instead of testing, there are 2 special studies being conducted in that same sample of schools that were selected for NAEP this school year. Neither of these studies includes or involve any student responses. The first study is the NAEP 2021 School and Teachers Questionnaires. This is a one-time set of questionnaires sent through MyNAEP to school principals, as well as reading and mathematics teachers in grades 4 and 8. They're the same type of questionnaires that are always included in NAEP testing. It obtains information about content-specific teaching and learning in schools. And this year, there are additional questions about the impact of COVID on instruction. This special study was scheduled for February 15th through March 26th, but the opening of the window has been delayed while we're waiting for final government approvals. We expect that this study will still be conducted, and I'll be in contact with those schools and districts in the sample with more information once it's approved, once we have more information. The principal questionnaires in this study should take about 40 minutes, and the teacher questionnaires should take about 25 to 35 minutes. And there will be NAEP field staff assisting schools to get these questionnaires submitted through MyNAEP. So again, this first one on the screen here is currently delayed. The second special study was just announced as a response to an executive order coming out of the White House to understand the impact of COVID-19 in schools across the nation, including the status of in-person learning for students. The study asks one designee in the school to complete a monthly survey that collects disaggregated data on modes of instruction, enrollment, and attendance rates. The survey was estimated to take about 30 minutes each month to complete on MyNape, although I am hearing from some schools that it's taking longer, especially during this first round of data collection. And we're working with NCES to try to come up with some tip sheets to make the process a little more streamlined. Schools and districts can work together to determine who will complete these surveys. We know that many DACs are assisting their schools with this task, and we really appreciate your help, especially with this short turnaround notice. The first window of data collection is this week. It closes today, and schools are getting automatic emails from the NAEP system reminding them to complete the survey and confirming once each month's survey is complete. And as always, please feel free to contact me if you have any questions or concerns. Here are a couple links for more information. The first one is a link for resources for participating schools. It includes, you can see a copy of the current survey questions. The second link is the NCES site, which includes information if you want to learn more about the decision to postpone NAEP student testing or either of the surveys that are being conducted. So thank you.
Thanks everyone for sharing your updates today. And as a reminder, please reach out to anyone here for any assessment specific questions or our general OSA mail account for general assessment questions. At this point, I will turn it back over to VG to close our webinar today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Lauren. Thanks everyone for joining today. And we look forward to working with you very closely during this spring testing season to help you administer tests safely and securely. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.